The spotlight effect is a phenomenon in psychology where each of us feel that we're more visible or that people are paying more attention to us than they actually are, right? It's not to say that no one cares or no one acknowledges your existence, but what it means is we generally highlight and amplify the way that we are, and we believe that everyone can see almost like everything about us, like we're really exposed in our day-to-day. And that can cause us to feel a lot more anxious around the way we're behaving. It can create higher expectations on the way that we behave compared to others, etc., etc. Now, part of that reminds me of a wonderful quote, I'm not sure who said it, which is that the trouble with social media particularly is that we compare our behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. If you think about this, right, social media only enhances a trait that is already there. When we compare ourselves to others, we're comparing everything. We're comparing every thought, every belief, every sensation, every perceived inadequacy, all the storylines that we tell ourselves. We're comparing that behind the scenes with a very much, particularly on social media, a surface level portrayal. But even with people that we know, it's not necessarily that they're sharing all the doubts that they have or the kind of self-criticisms that they experience on the day-to-day. So the spotlight effect is how a lot of the time we're more critical towards ourselves than we are to others, because we're not really viewing ourselves in the same way. We are the leading star of our story, we're the center of our story, and in being that, we can often just put higher expectations on ourselves, and this is one way that the self-critic gets fuel and is oxygenized. There are other common traits with the self-critic, particularly with self-blame. So when we look at the stories that I've shared already, and you look at the monologue and the way in which the self-critic almost attacks you at different times, in that moment you're blaming yourself. It's my fault. I've done something wrong. I've ruined everything. These kind of thoughts. In doing that, this blame, this self-blame, is very closely linked to feelings of shame that I mentioned earlier. Now, for me, this is most evident, and I used to experience this a lot, like self-blame to the nth degree in all areas of life. I would really take a lot of responsibility, even if I had good intentions, even if I was trying my best and I somehow slipped up. I would just be really hard on myself for things that, sometimes people barely even acknowledged. It wasn't like I was being overtly harmful or anything like that. I'm talking about day-to-day social faux pas or perceived faux pas or just comments or whatever that I really felt like I'd done something wrong, and in reality they're just passing things. So this, for me, becomes most evident in romantic relationships and conflict. Tend to have more conflict in romance. And one thing that I'm really working on, because it still surfaces now, and it's like an area of like advanced level self-compassion really, is when I feel like I've let someone down, or like I've let my partner down, or that I'm somehow responsible for causing upset in my partner, then the self-blame mechanism can be really come on board and really kick me when I'm down. Like, it kind of feels like that. So graciously, my partner's really helped me work through this, because it's still the same mechanism. It's still the pain arrow and the suffering arrow, and like the storyline and the experience, in just a different way, in a way that I get caught and trapped and stuck a little bit easier. So it might be that I do something that upsets my partner, right? Through no bad intention, I upset her, I see that she's upset, and then I feel maybe a bit of anger towards myself, or I feel just upset that she's upset. That's the situation. It can be healed. It is healed often enough. We work through these things. But when I'm not being mindful, when I'm not being self-compassionate, then the stories come on board. Oh, you're an idiot, you f***ed it up. You ruined it. Why did you do that? You know, you've upset her now, the evening's ruined. And within these storylines, there are different distortions that are very common if you look at cognitive behavioral therapy. There are different ways that our thoughts are distorted. Now, a really common one is catastrophizing. So a lot of the time when I'm blaming myself, I'm catastrophizing what I've done. Combine that with the spotlight effect, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you've just ruined pretty much the entire universe for everyone, haven't you, Ricky, with that comment? Well done, mate. And it's this like building of feeling like you've done wrong, catastrophizing that, and also feeling like your actions have more of an impact than they do. It's not to say your actions don't, of course. You know, every action has some kind of impact, and that's why we have to also be compassionate to others. But what do I want in this example? What do I want in that situation? I want healing. If I'm in conflict with my partner, I want to move through that. What is the best way to do that? It's to be self-compassionate. Why? Because I can go, okay, I accept and validate that I'm feeling a bit of frustration towards myself. I validate that, you know, you want a nice, chilled evening and now you've caused upset, and that makes sense that you're feeling this way. Now you're accepting and nourishing those feelings, what steps can be taken? And from a resourceful place, from a kind of future self wisdom, the best way of doing that is to create healing, to reconcile, to, if I feel like I've done something wrong, to apologize, but not to get stuck in self-pity, which is another trait of the self-critic. So we have these mechanisms. We have a lot of self-blame, excessive self-criticism, the spotlight effect, and of course perfectionism, which is a real big one, which we're also going to explore in a separate video because it's so significant.